Chad Brendel, Bearcat Journal. We're changing it up a little this year. And we normally have the assistant coaches here, but we thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk to the source, talk to the guy that is in charge of high school recruiting and finding a lot of these guys that you just saw talked about yesterday on signing day. So Carter Wilson, welcome to the show. How are you?
I appreciate it. I'm doing well, Chad.
Let's get into it, and don't hold back. We can get into all the fun stories, and you know all the good stuff on these guys. Let's get into this 2026 recruiting class. Just give us an overall thought on what you guys were able to accomplish with these 22 guys.
Yeah, I think you look up and down the list, and you're going to see a theme, right? And that's continuing to get bigger, stronger, faster, and longer in all aspects, right? Continuing to upgrade the physicality of the team as a whole. And we set out to do that on the front end, and we feel like we really accomplished that down the stretch here.
Size, as you mentioned, but especially in the trenches.
Yes.
Your highest rated recruits on the defensive line. You've got 5 offensive linemen. How much of a priority is it when you look at the high school ranks to say it's really hard to get these guys in the portal? We need to hit on the high school ranks and develop to get there.
I think you hit it right on the head right there. You know that these guys with these frames and this ability, if they pan out in college, it's going to be really, really hard to get them on the back end. So we have to get them in the program, get them in with our strength coach, Coach Palazetti, and around our assistant coaches to develop the technical skill to build them up. We can teach a bunch of things, but we can't teach them to be 6'5" with long arms and broad shoulders and all those things.
The one thing I will, before we get into individually, we've seen a trend of like 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys at tackle. Mm-hmm. You guys went more in this group, 6'5", longer arms. Was there a thought process? Was that on purpose, or was there just not any of those like freak of nature guys that ended up on the radar?
Yeah, for us, something that's really big is the hidden length, right? So we're not going to get stuck on their height and fixate on that from the evaluation standpoint, but we are going to look for guys with great arm length and broad shoulders. So somebody like Solomon Mathis, who's right there just under 6'5", he has an 83-inch wingspan. So that's about a 6'11" wingspan, which you usually would not find on somebody unless they were 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". And that's somebody we felt like, hey, he's going to have the potential to come in here and be able to contribute down the line at tackle, as if you were one of those big bodies. He's got the raw explosion, strong as heck. He's one of the guys who come up, pat you on the back, not knowing how strong he is, and knock you over. So we feel like we really pursued the hidden length there. Luke Collins, another guy just like that. 6'4" on the nose with an 80-inch wingspan. Another guy with great hidden length and broad shoulders, we feel like has the physical attributes. He just doesn't have the height, right? Still fits what we want in a predominantly outside and wide zone scheme, able to, initially quick and can reach and cut off and do all those things, but does have the developmental potential to be able to fill that role down the line for us.
Let's start on the offensive line. We'll start with one of your Ohio kids on the group, Luke Collins.
Luke Collins, man, absolute dog. We just hit on his frame right there. Incredible human being, tough as freaking nails, can do everything you want. And he's a guy who's going to come in and compete early. He'll be here in January. We're really excited about him. Not only is it what he does on the field, but his overall football character and personal character and just his mentality is what's going to make him really special. He's a Bearcat through and through. Can't have enough guys like that. If we sign, 20 guys like Luke Collins every single year, we're going to be all right.
Another high school guy, Ohio high school guy, and guy familiar with the program because his brother's here, Luke Grover.
Luke Grover, man. He's another guy who has great length in that same hidden length. So he's just under 6'5" himself. Over an 80-inch wing with 34-inch arms, really, really long. He's a guy we've been able to watch grow up over the last couple of years. Obviously, he's around campus a little bit with his older brother Gavin, who's done a tremendous job for us in his first 2 years here. And we've got to watch him grow from an 8th grader all the way up through the end of his high school career. He's somebody who's put on a lot of size. Went from probably being about 6 foot, 6'1" the first time he came around campus to now he's over 6'4" and ready to compete in the Big 12 as an offensive lineman.
Looking at his brother, he might have a couple more inches of growth later. Some hidden growth in there as he gets here.
I don't know what's in the milk at the Grover household, but
there's not any. They drank it all.
That's it. A lot of empty gallons in that fridge for sure.
Adam Hone, I know Zach raved about him yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Zach hit the nail on the head with him. It's the athletic potential, the ability to generate those power angles. And that's everything from the waist down. He's lean, he's athletic. At 270 pounds in the spring, he ran a laser 5.16, which is really, really impressive for a high schooler. You almost never see that on the offensive line, especially for somebody who's over 270 pounds. He's kind of got a little bit of everything you want. Felt like he slipped under the radar a little bit throughout spring in the summer, and we were able to capitalize.
Solomon Mathis, Georgia. I'm not going to try to say
Hepzibah.
Okay, great.
If you say it quick enough, then you're all right.
I didn't want to get myself in trouble there. Another one that's maybe the biggest of the group in terms of like his weight, but right in that same.
Yeah, absolutely. He's right there around 300 right now, and he carries that unbelievably well. If you looked at him, you'd probably think he's in that 270 to 280 range, but he's right there around 300. A really, really lean frame that's going to be able to add some more mass. And then he's just got a bunch of the raw traits you want, the explosion, and then the play temperament too. He's really, really physical. He loves the game. If you called him up right now and said, hey, Solomon, we got to line up and go play, he'd be like, heck yeah, let's do it. And he's always ready to put hands on somebody.
Nathan Zappatelli, I'm more interested. Is his dad bringing down pasta? Have you had Zappatelli's? Like, what's the story on getting some good Italian food from these guys?
We have. They've brought down coolers almost every time they come down. And there's always more than enough to go around, so we'll have to hit you up next time they bring some down. It's awesome. But he's really maybe the gem of the group. His last 4 or 5 games down the stretch in the season were absolutely unbelievable. He played through injury and was able to dominate some of the best competition in the state consistently. And that's a testament to his physical ability, but then also his play temperament, his nasty, his finish, all those good things we want. So we're really, really fired up about Zappatelli.
And how important, I believe all these guys camped, right? Mm-hmm. How important, especially for offensive linemen, is it to get them here to work with Cardwell, to get an eyes-on evaluation of who they are?
That's huge. There's not many times in the process that you're going to be able to get to work with somebody, and you learn a lot about them through that process. How do they take direction? How do they respond in different situations? You get to see them move around a little bit too and figure out where they're at from a movement skill standpoint. But it's also beneficial for them. How are they going to be coached when they're here? You get the actual, first-hand experience, and I can't speak enough to the impact that can have. And like I said, a bunch of these different guys did. Lance Dawson was somebody on the defensive line who camped for us in June, earned that offer, OV'd a couple weeks after that. Next thing you know, he's a Bearcat.
Now he's a 4-star.
And now he's a 4-star.
Because he didn't have a profile, right? Yeah. Didn't have a profile then. Let's go to quarterback. Brooks Goodman, kid out of Atlanta, Georgia, Blessed Trinity High School. Looks the part.
Absolutely. He's got the physical profile for sure. Over 6'2", 207 pounds. He can run, do a little bit for you there too. And he's just a really consistent passer of the football, gets it out to his guys, lets them make plays, can also fit it into some tighter windows. But really the big thing with Brooks is his football IQ. He's super, super intelligent, picks up everything really, really quickly, can retain information, and can process and make decisions, which is on field probably the most important thing for the quarterback position. But the real testament to who Brooks is and what he can do here, after we answered all those questions, we offered him, he committed. The real question for a quarterback is, all right, once you're in, and we say, hey, Brooks, we want you to hit up some of the other guys and some of the other top targets. How's that guy going to respond? What's his charisma like? How will everyone else in the class feel about that kid? And Brooks has done the best job of maybe anyone I've ever seen. He's hungry to recruit. Cass gets him on the phone all the time with all of our guys. And he's got the charisma and a little bit of a gravitational pull. Everybody loves him, and they're fired up to be in the class with him.
In terms of quarterback, does it change as you watch the league? Like you've been here for a while now, you're learning the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Does what you're looking for change a little bit, and like this is how quarterback is played in the league, or is it more this is what we do and we want to stick to it, or is there a blend of those things?
I think there's a blend of those things for sure. As time goes on, I think there's more of a premium on guys who can not just throw the ball, but also create with their legs outside of that too. And then durability too. You want somebody who's going to stay healthy and be able to take the toll of playing in the league at this level. But for sure, schematically, we know we're going to want somebody who can both throw and pass. And so that's going to eliminate a portion of guys on both sides of that who can only do one or the other. So we're always looking for a sliding scale of, how well do they do each, and then is that some of those things, what we're looking for.
Jalen Williams, tight end, 6'5", 220. He was a little bit of a late addition to the class, Bloomington, Indiana, so he's not far away. Talk about his recruitment and how that came about and what he brings.
He's somebody who is your prototypical late riser, somebody who's developed a lot here down the stretch in the last 12 months. We watched his junior film, liked it, thought he might be a jumbo wide receiver. Wasn't sure if he's going to be able to carry the weight necessary to eventually slide in line and play tight end. But he answered all those questions on senior film. Massive, massive frame, gigantic hands, almost 11 inches, over an 80-inch wing. So, another guy with a huge developmental potential there physically. And then functionally strong too. You see that in his limited exposure in the run game. Most of his stuff is on the perimeter. So, every now and then they'll involve him in the perimeter blocking game. But you also see it in his routes, right? He's getting PI'd, he's getting strapped up downfield, and he's making all types of contested catches. A bunch of one-handers too, which it's a testament to having hands that size and being able to go attack the ball and be short to it. It's great when guys can get open and make the play, but it's even better when you can be covered and still be open.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys for sure.
Wide receiver, these guys could all pass as like future tight ends with their size. Josh Smith, quarterback, has an electric tape.
Yep.
How does he project? How do you project a quarterback to a wide receiver when you're going through your process? And sometimes is it as easy as like, okay, he looks different than the other guys?
Yeah, certainly. I think he's a guy that we watched with the offensive staff in the spring. And we said, man, his quarterback tape is intriguing. It's not like he's a running quarterback. He had almost 30 pass touchdowns his senior year and about 2,000 yards through the air. So he is a bona fide pocket passer for his school because, he's the best player on the field. And so they put the best player back there, and that was really beneficial for his school. But watching his junior tape is like, hey, this is a unique frame. You're not going to come across this every day. And we thought we really needed to get him down to a camp and be able to work with him, put him at receiver, get him to work with our receiver coaches and see what he's like in that setting and how far off he would be from that receiver projection. He killed it, not only on the field, but being around him and getting to know him. Another exceptional young man who's got a little bit of that it factor to him, and this is probably a testament to him being a successful high school quarterback and being the guy. And he's somebody you feel really strongly about being able to make that transition.
And a little gadget, it's kind of.
You never know. I mean, he's throwing it 50 yards through the air regularly, so defensive coordinators beware.
Put him in motion.
Absolutely.
Dadrian Waller, 6'3", 220 out of Guntersville, Alabama.
Absolutely. Dadrian's a guy who I believe we were his first offer of any kind last fall. And he's another guy who's got the frame to be able to be effective, whether or not somebody's in your hip pocket. And then he's really got the ball skills and the play temperament to go attack and be short to the ball, right? When somebody throws up those 50-50 balls, you don't want to be passive in that situation, right? You want to go attack it, and that's something he did consistently. Not only does he have the frame, but he used it. And that's, again, a testament to his competitiveness and who he is as a player.
Say his first name. I'm going to mess it up.
Haj.
Okay. Well, that's easy enough. Haj Jackson, 6'4", 190, another big kid. And I'd ask how the season impacted that. But these guys were in place. Like, this plan to get bigger at wide receiver was in place long before this season played out. But Haj Jackson, 6'4", 190 out of New Orleans. You like those Louisiana guys?
We do. We've had some good success with receivers originally from the state of Louisiana for sure. Haj is a guy who our assistant receivers coach, VJ Stingley, actually saw on tape. And, we were looking at somebody else at the high school, and he said, hey, man, like, this is a really big kid who's moving well out there. We watched it all up and down the evaluation pipeline, and everyone was like, yeah, like guys that are 6'3 plus, 190 pounds plus, usually aren't moving like that. We were able to capitalize late, and again, just stack the room and create the group of players we want. You're looking for a basketball team out there in the wide receiver room. Not just in the size profile, but in the skill sets. So obviously we feel like these guys are really complementary to some of the speed and explosiveness and playmaking ability we currently have.
No running back in this group. Is it a possibility for the second signing period? Do you wait and see how the roster plays out with the portal and all that? Is it possible?
A little bit of that on both sides. Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. We're going to regroup and see exactly what the position looks like out there after this first signing period. And see what makes sense for us versus what's available in the portal, and figure that out. Obviously, Zion Johnson had a tremendous freshman season. Manny Covey returning has found a role and is doing a really good job there. And then see what the rest of the population looks like as far as the younger guys out there.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with defense part 2 right after this.